You ever have a day that starts out feeling like any other ordinary, almost boring in its predictability, and then, without warning, you find yourself standing in the middle of a street with half the world watching, while the other half is just waiting to see if you'll stand up or break down? I never thought that would be me. But, sometimes the universe picks its own moments to slap the routine right out of your hands. That morning, I was just driving my old silver sedan down Maple Avenue Quiet Street. Bricks cracked by time, trees leaning over like they'd seen too much, and I wasn't rushing anywhere. No music, no rush, just the engine's low hum and a mind drifting to grocery lists and bills and the way the sun looked in the rearview mirror. But that's the thing, right? You could drive a street 1,000 times, think you know every shadow, every crack in the sidewalk, and then out of nowhere, bam, your story hits the accelerator and you can't hit the brakes. I spotted the patrol car before it saw me. It rolled up slow, windows down, a young cop in a pressed uniform, and that eager look you see on guys who haven't learned yet that a badge doesn't make you invincible. His name tag said Thomas Lucas Thomas, and the way he watched me, you'd think he was hunting something. Not looking for trouble, just expecting it. Now, you get used to looks in neighborhoods like mine. Black woman, old car, white side of town sometimes, it feels like you're guilty just for existing. He cut me off smooth, signaled for me to pull over, and I did because honestly, arguing about it never gets you anywhere but trouble. I glanced in the mirror, saw him swagger up heavy boots, hand never far from the grip on his belt, like his confidence was something he could unclip if things got out of hand. The window went down, not all the way, just enough for air and authority to squeeze, and Nanda's voice followed, sharp and cold. License and registration. No good morning, no how are you, just the kind of command that says he's got all the time in the world, and yours just ran out. I asked as polite as I could, "Did I do something wrong, officer?" He didn't answer, just told me to get out of the car, and his hand hovered, not exactly on his gun, but not exactly not. You know what I mean? Like he wanted me to know who had the power in this scene. I could have argued, could have made a scene, but I didn't. I just stared back at him, kept my voice steady. "Sir, what's the reason for this stop?" That's when he yanked the door open, grabbed my arm so hard it left a mark, and pulled me out like I was a felon. The crowd was already forming, phones out, eyes wide, people slowing down to see if this was just another day or the start of something bigger. It didn't matter to him. He barked at me again, asking if I thought I was above the law. I remember thinking, boy, you don't even know who you're talking to. That's when I reached into my coat slow, deliberate, making sure every movement was visible, because a lifetime teaches you the price of sudden gestures when someone's itching to prove a point. He backed up, hand on his holster, but all I pulled out was a small, silver badge, one word bigger than any command he could give: justice. I held it out at eye level. "Do you know who I am?" I didn't have to shout. The badge did the talking. The crowd felt the shift suddenly. This wasn't just a traffic stop. This was a showdown between arrogance and the law. He froze. For a second, all that bravado just leaked out of him. But pride's a stubborn thing. Lucas tried to brush it off, muttered something about procedure and possible forgery, but you could hear the crack in his voice, the sweat collecting at his temple. His partner didn't step in, just watched, probably wondering how deep they were sinking. By then, 3 different phones were recording. Nobody said a word, but everybody knew this was the moment something bigger than us all was happening. And then, almost like a scene change, a civilian car pulled up. Out stepped a man in gray calm, quiet authority, like someone who's used to cleaning up other people's messes. He walked straight to me, never even glancing at Lucas, and asked, "Justice Martin, do you need assistance?" Lucas turned pale. That was it. The cameras kept rolling, the crowd leaned in, and even the air felt heavier, charged with the weight of everything that had led to this minute. After that, everything moved fast but felt slow, like time wanted everyone to remember each detail. Lucas was told to file a report by sundown. I got handed a card. No apologies, just procedure in the knowledge that the world would see what happened here today. Phones kept filming as Lucas tried to save face, but his partner was already stepping back, choosing silence over solidarity. Word travels fast when justice is put on trial in the street. Within hours, the video hit social mediano narration. Just the image of an old black woman holding up a Supreme Court badge to a cop who finally saw himself not as a hero, but as a headline. You know what happens next? Hashtags, news stories, people arguing in living rooms and city squares. But what you might not expect is how the quietest voices, kids, grandmothers, people who'd never marched for anything suddenly found their own reasons to care. That's the twist. You think the world will turn away, but sometimes, just sometimes, everyone wakes up at once. Next thing you know, there are hearings, internal affairs crawling over every second of that stop. Luke is sitting before a committee, suit too tight, hands shaking, facing questions he can't spin away. They ask him if he knows what personal bias is, if he was ever taught how to stop someone without stripping away their dignity. Evidence piles up, 3 videos, 5 witnesses, even a school kid who just wanted to ride his bike home says he saw an officer lose control because he never learned how to hold respect. Twist number 2, you'd think a system would try to hush it up, maybe slap his wrist and move on. But the truth kept leaking out: old complaints, patterns of stops that never made the news, reports quietly filed away. Suddenly, it's not just about me and Lucas. It's about every traffic stop that went wrong, every apology that never came, every grandmother who learned to drive with her hands high and her heart racing. Then the protests started. Not angry mobs, but families, mothers, sons, neighbors, teachers walking together, holding signs that said, "We are watching. Justice is not a privilege. Would you treat your own mother this way?" The marches didn't demand revenge, just dignity. Inside the police department, the mood shifted. Young officers began asking questions out loud, saying they wanted to be better, to be trusted, not feared. A rookie wrote on the break room wall, "If I stay silent, I become part of what I hate." That went viral too. Meanwhile, the case went to trial. No cameras in the jury room, but everyone knew what was at stake. I didn't go there to get revenge. I just wanted someone to finally see me as a person, not a suspect or a symbol. Lucas sat across the room, head down, mumbling about mistakes, never quite apologizing, because pride's a stubborn thing even when it's all you've got left. The verdict came down: permanent dismissal, mandatory retraining, no more hiding behind procedure. The judge said justice isn't about punishing mistakes, but about drawing a line so clear no one can pretend not to see it. When I walked out, there was no celebration, no fanfare, just quiet, the kind that sits heavy but peaceful. Reporters asked how I felt. I told them I wasn't happy someone lost their job. I was just glad the city finally saw each other clearly for once. Funny thing is, my silence spoke louder than any speech ever could. That wasn't the end, though. What started as a single stop on Maple Avenue turned into a blueprint for change. Police training got rewritten, new oversight boards were formed, people who never spoke at public meetings started sharing their own stories about stops that ended badly, words that hurt deeper than any bruise. They understood now. Justice doesn't begin in a courtroom. It begins in the street, in the way we look at each other when no one is watching. Teachers played my story in civics classes. Teenagers debated the limits of power and the cost of silence. And if you're wondering about Lucas, last I heard, he was working somewhere nobody asked for a badge. But that's not the ending. Because every few months, there's a new headline: some other town, another officer, a different badge held up by someone refusing to shrink. And each time, the voices get a little louder, the march is a little bigger, the apologies a little more sincere. So, if you ask me what really changed that day, it's this: people learned that silence isn't safety, that standing still can shake the world, and that you don't have to raise your voice to make everyone listen. You just have to refuse to look away. That's all it takes. And now, every time I drive down Maple Avenue, I see the cracks in the bricks, the way the sun hits the windshield, and I know that justice isn't a destination, but a journey we're all responsible for, step by step, day by day, even if it means starting over 100 times. So tell me, if you'd been there that morning, watching from the sidewalk or behind your phone, would you have filmed or would you have spoken up? And do you think what happened was enough? Or is justice just beginning? Leave your thoughts below. Let's not let the conversation end here.